Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to this late night stream. 1 second here. I am getting a link to share with a dear friend of mine on WhatsApp. I have to do that on my phone. Okay, cool. It's been a long time, but I have not forgotten the Gita, nor have I forgotten this practice. And I do want to share with you all the notes I took on these next few verses. So I have just one line of notes on these 3 verses I'm going to do today. And then this verse 424, that's all my notes on that one verse. And that's not me like trying to elaborate anything. I'm just trying to understand it. This is definitely the hardest verse I've looked at since starting these live streams. So we're going to do just 3 verses today, however long that lasts. And then 424 will be a dedicated live stream next time for when I am back in Massachusetts. All right. Once again, we have our home edition, the Bhagavad Gita. Jai Shri Krishna, Jai Shri Bhagavad Gita. Om Gyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we are continuing where we left off last time, starting with 421. Get to 421 here. I'll read the verse. Such a man of understanding acts with mind and intelligence perfectly controlled, gives up all sense of proprietorship over his possessions, and acts only for the bare necessities of life. Thus working, he is not affected by sinful reactions. So the key word for me, for this verse, which especially separates it from other verses, because in each hexad of the Gita, so there's 6 chapter hexads. We're in the first hexad now in chapter 4. There's actually only a few basically simple premises, thoughts, whatever themes that are just repeated constantly. But with each verse, you can get a little subtle nuance that isn't in the other verses. And so the key for this one is acts only for the bare necessities of life. I told Robert to join back again and ask a question. Oh, I told his name. I don't want to get in trouble for names. So it's not only that this verse is stressing that we should act only for the bare necessities of life. That's very strong language there. And remember, he's basically talking about everyone. This isn't like only for like sannyasi, whatever. This is for like anyone who's serious on the path towards enlightenment. And I'm multitasking here, sorry. And now I lost my train of thought. I think I remember now. Now, but why? Why does Krishna say Well, it's the next line right after it says bare necessities of life, at least in the English translation. Right after that is there are no sinful reactions. That's the key. It's not that we all should stay true to the bare necessities because, oh, look how renounced we are, look how healthy it is, or look how, all glories to my obeisances, look at how, um, look at these austerities I can perform. It's not like that. It's just that it works at giving you a life and a lifestyle that has no sinful reactions. And when you have that as a foundation of your daily life having no sinful reactions, then you say, oh, I wonder what Krishna's up to, or anything like that on the bhakti path. Um, becomes just so easy. There's nothing getting in the way of reciprocating with that stuff. Thank you, Bhakta Robert Earl. Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. How long have I been on YouTube? I've been on YouTube for years, but this is a new channel for me. This is just my devotional only channel. And oh, it's not that only a year or two since I moved to Prabhupada Village. I started this. I'm pretty sure. But this is the 26th live stream of the Bhagavad Gita. I'm going to read through the entire Bhagavad Gita. We are almost done with chapter 4, or maybe halfway through chapter 4, and that's 26 episodes. So you could probably do the math to figure out how many more we got to go to get to 1872. Okay, and then in my notes here for this verse, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, a devotee, in this sense, a devotee who's acting only, it's not even that you're acting only for, you don't actually act for the bare necessities of life. What that means, it's not that like that's your end goal. Acting for the bare necessities of life means your conscious action, once you start, calculating things and trying to be clever, basically, all of that is only used for things you're allowed to be doing. Um, and nothing else. No sense gratification, no greed, whatever, none of that stuff. And so, actually, what Prabhupada says in the purport here is it's like devotees in this state of mind are like animals or children. He actually uses the word animal, but I'm adding children to that because it's similar thing. Young children, I mean, like kindergarten and younger, they're like animals. They just live in the moment and in symbiosis and in equilibrium with everything around them, whether they're happy or sad, angry or whatever. It's just a natural, pure, sincere expression. um, Animals aren't greedy. You may think like a lion is greedy because it ate one whole you know gazelle and then it eats a whole other one. That's just its nature. Actually, it is eating what it is allotted to eat. And other times the lion will not be able to eat anything because the other lion got the kill first or whatever. So animal consciousness in this sense has no sinful reaction, in the same way that a devotee's life who follows this verse particularly, acting only for the bare necessities of life, has no sinful reaction. Prabhupada also states animals do not have autonomy over their own body. They're only maintaining, um, the vessel is just doing what it needs to do based on the modes and past karma and so on. And it's the animal is just maintaining the body. It's just bare bones required maintenance. So how can that be bad? That's the point here. Let's see if there's anything else I need to add. I'm looking at the end of the purport here. Krishna conscious person, fully engaged in self realization, has very little time to falsely possess any material object. Okay, so the key there is false. We're all allowed to, we all have things. This body is an object that we have, actually. And same with our cars and our computers and all that stuff. But then again, we don't actually have anything. It's all false ownership. And so when you're Krishna conscious, it doesn't make sense. It's rasa, what's it called? Rasa boss. It's the bad flavor, bad taste to go about in the business of falsely possessing things. They're not yours. They're Krishna's, and even when you use them in Krishna's service, even when you use a real possession, when you're in the consciousness of that, it's not yours, so you're not falsely possessing that thing, and you're using it for Krishna. Even in those instances, you're not actually thinking, oh, this is mine, and then now, but it's real, so that's good. Like there's the fake thing that's mine, and then there's the real thing that's mine, and so the real thing's better. It's like, no, it's not. By getting to that state of consciousness, you understand it's not mine, and it doesn't matter. It's just not important. Consciousness is important. Souls are important. Super souls, super soul is also important. For maintaining body and soul, he does not require unfair means of accumulating money. Once again, keyword unfair. This is just like the word false in the previous sentence. It's all the key is in those two words. That's why all these bhakti traditions, I'm also including Christianity, are purity focused. And humility and sincerity are cardinal virtues here. How else can you? It's not possible. It's not, when you understand your position and God's position, you are humble. You don't get to not be humble. And by seeing it clearly, you are sincere. You don't like if you do like just repeat a verse like, oh, this is Jiva Tattva, this is Vishnu Tattva, whatever, and you feel good and people tell you how advanced you are or whatever, those good feelings you might have, that's not the real thing. You're not actually in communion with any metaphysical thing. You're just masturbating, pardon the language. Yep. And so in the final sentence, Prabhupada says he does not become contaminated by such material sins. He is free from all reactions to his actions. Moving on to 422. He who is satisfied with gain, which comes of its own accord, who is free from duality and does not envy, who is steady both in success and failure, is never entangled, although performing actions. So the part I highlighted here is gain coming from its own accord. And the word used here is santushtaha. Yep, santushtaha, which means is satisfied. So the question I have for myself and others is that a cognate? Is santushtaha and satisfied or satisfaction, are these actually the same word in English and in Sanskrit, but they just sound a little different? That's basically what cognate means. So hopefully someone can tell me the answer to that. And I always like these Sanskrit words about duality. So the word here, Krishna uses dvandvatito. Dvandvatito means surpassed duality. So dvandva is duality, two and two. The number two bouncing around means duality. Two and two. The two front side, the two the back side. This is dvandva, duality. Dvanvatito means surpassing duality. Once again, I just really like these words. That's why I write them down, because they just make sense and they sound great. And I like to. It's not. There's also what I'm. There's a way that you have fun with the language, so that you actually remember the words really well. So before I saw this word dvanvatito, dvanvatito. Um, the more common phrase I see Krishna using in the Gita is dvandva moha, which means the illusion of duality. And so I did this same practice where I was like, oh, that was cool. Like I broke down the word duality comes from dvandva, and like, I broke it down. I was like, oh, that's really cool. And I just remembered it so well. And so when I see this new word, dvanvatito, I know, okay, it's duality. And now there's just, instead of learning the whole new word, it's just Tito is the only new thing. We'll see if that comes back again, though. We might just keep going. I'm totally fine with doing a really short stream. Gonna check on my friend here. He says, oh, I can pose as a karmi and ask pertinent questions. Sure, man, that's great. Nice. My friend is very excited about this, as you all should be. Another thing Prabhupada does in the purports is he's making the connections between the verses stronger. He's emphasizing. Sometimes Krishna will emphasize something and Prabhupada will double emphasize it, and then other times Krishna keeps going, but then Prabhupada tells us, "Oh, no! Are you sure you got the last verse?" So the first line of this purport in 22 is, a Krishna conscious person does not make much endeavor even to maintain his body. So that is a deliberate reference to the previous verse. And now, from this point on, now he's going to show how this new verse 22 is expanding on 21. Yeah, and so it's so obvious. So when you're only maintaining the body, what's a result of that is that you only get gains from its own accord. Whatever you get is righteous, basically, whether it's good karma or bad karma, a reaction, I mean. If you're only maintaining the body and you're Krishna conscious and whatever, you will get gain of its own accords. And because it's pure and righteous and so on, you're always going to be happy with it, even if it's a bitter fruit of karma or a sweet fruit of karma. Prabhupada continues, he neither begs nor borrows, and labors honestly with his own power, and he is therefore independent in his livelihood. And then Prabhupada mentions, for the service of the Lord, he can participate in any kind of action without being disturbed by the duality of the material world. And duality means heat and cold, misery and happiness, like that. A Krishna conscious person is above duality because he does not hesitate to act in any way for the satisfaction of Krishna. Very simple purport to describe a simple verse. Once again, a lot of these verses, as great as they are, and I do love every verse in the Gita, there's a lot of redundancies here. And that's on purpose, guys. That is absolutely on purpose. This wisdom and theology, these sort of things that we're talking about, sacred geometry is another one like this. It doesn't actually require intelligence because it's too simple. So it's not something you need to take a PhD course on. It's you have the eyes to see or you don't. You have the ears to hear or you don't. And by repeating in a certain way and changing it a little bit, eventually it'll click. This is just like in music. You start with a basic beat, and the next bar or stanza comes along, and you tweak it a little bit, and then people go, "Oh, now I'm listening." Same thing here. Same thing here. Remember, this is Bhagavad Gita, song of God. This is a musical work here. All right, I think we can go to 23. I'll read the verse. The work of a man who is unattached to the modes of nature and who is fully situated in transcendental knowledge merges entirely into transcendence. This is like the conclusion from the previous two or more verses, is that when you well, it's interesting. He's actually saying the work is what merges entirely into transcendence, I think. Oh, here's another interesting word. Previliate. Previliate means merges entirely. I wonder if that's cognate with prevail in English. Prevail. Interesting. Probably not, though. I'm guessing it doesn't. Okay, and here is another new word I wrote in my notes. Gata sangasya, unattached to the modes. Gata sangasya. So this is a very short verse and a very short purport. So when the reactions to this Krishna conscious work merge into transcendence, the final word of the purport here, Prabhupada says, one does not suffer material effects. It's so simple, guys. It's like if you're living in the material world, you will be you will suffer accordingly. You're living in that world, so the rules of that world apply to you. If you stop living in the material world and you start living in the spiritual world, which is what Krishna is talking about, which is just a change of consciousness, when you just change your consciousness like that and you just keep it going, you get the benefits of what it means to live in a spiritual world. The spiritual world, the rules of that world now apply to you. Once you start playing the game, the rules of that game are now part of your life. And the rules of the game are Satchit Ananda Vigraha and others like this. There's transcendence here. It feeds to more transcendence there, which goes to more. It just keeps going. There's no loss. There's only gain because it's eternal, which means it's actually real. Whereas Maya, material, temporary reality, blah, 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 it's actually totally fake. It's actually not real. So even though it may feel like, oh, I won the championship or whatever thing in this temporary world you did, even though it may feel good, you have sweet fruit of karma. It's still just a karmic fruit, and it's in a sense no different than the bitter fruit of karma. So this is like, to me, this is like the first thing to transcend is like this is a duality right here. Good karma, bad karma. That's a duality. That's what Krishna's talking about with happiness and misery. These are the material dualities that are part of the material world. They're not good or bad. They're just material. They're temporary. They're not real. But one who acts, one who has spiritual consciousness and does spiritual actions gets spiritual benefits. And spiritual means eternal and real, actually existing. So the key for us, those of us who already know this stuff and have been practicing for a while, the key, I guess, I think with these verses is to continue, is to one, remember how simple it is. Two, remember how subtle it is. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to build a temple. You don't have to move to another country. You don't have to um, do anything. Just your consciousness has to shift, and then your external actions are simply going to be an external manifestation of what already changed inside. And then you just keep doing that. And that's all it is. As long as you're actually doing it, you will get all those actual benefits. And as long as you're actually not doing it, it's all Maya. You might get a sweet fruit one day and a bitter fruit another day. It doesn't matter. You could be emperor or whatever. It doesn't matter. In the end, it doesn't matter. All right, that's it. We will continue with just one verse next time. Hope y'all had a great time today and other times. Wishing you all the best. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Bol.